The morning air was crisp, and I sat in my usual spot by the window, coffee in hand, savoring the quiet before the storm. I had been waiting for this moment. The moment Olivia's world would come crashing down, just as she had so carelessly shattered my trust. It all started with something small. A notification from my bank, a low balance alert that made no sense. I managed my finances meticulously, so I opened my banking app, expecting to find a minor discrepancy, a double charge, maybe an unexpected bill. What I found instead made my stomach drop. A $42,000 transaction, marked as a vehicle purchase. I hadn't bought a car. And Olivia? She already had a brand new SUV, fully paid for by me. My fingers moved swiftly, opening the transaction details, and there it was, the name on the invoice, Jake Reynolds. My wife's so-called male best friend. For 5 years, I had been married to Olivia. 5 years of laughter, shared dreams, and a life I thought was built on trust. She was beautiful, charismatic, the kind of woman who could charm her way out of anything. And for the longest time, I believed she was loyal. Sure, I never liked Jake. He was too familiar, too comfortable around my wife in ways that never sat right with me. But Olivia had always brushed off my concerns with a casual wave and an easy smile. "You're being paranoid," she'd say. "Jake's like a brother to me. He's been there for me since before we met, Rob." Like an idiot, I had let it go. I had chosen to trust her. But now, staring at that bank statement, I realized the truth. I had been a fool. The signs had been there all along. Little comments Olivia made that didn't sit right. "Jake's car is falling apart. Poor thing. If I had my own money, I'd just buy him a car myself." At the time, I had shrugged it off. But now I saw it for what it was. She had been testing the waters, gauging my reaction. And because I never reacted, she went ahead and did it. She stole from me. My hands were steady as I set my phone down, not in anger, but in cold, calculated clarity. Olivia had made a choice, and now it was my turn. When she walked through the door that evening, laughing at something on her phone, I played my part perfectly. "Hey Olivia, did you buy someone a car?" She barely looked up, tossing her bag onto the couch with a careless shrug. "Oh yeah, that was it." No hesitation, no guilt. Like she had just picked up groceries. I waited, giving her the chance to explain, to apologize, to show even a flicker of remorse. Instead, she sighed, walked over, kissed me on the cheek, and said words that sealed her fate. "Relax, babe. You'll make it back. Stop being cheap." She even rolled her eyes. And that was the moment, right then and there, when I stopped seeing her as my wife and started seeing her as a problem to solve. I took a slow breath, forcing an amused tone. "Let me get this straight. You took my money, bought Jake a car, and didn't think you should tell me?" She tilted her head, actually confused. "Why would I? It's just money, Rob. It's not like you're struggling." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because she had no idea what she had just done to herself. I smiled instead. "You're right. It's just money." Her shoulders relaxed. She thought she had won. She had no idea that, in my mind, our marriage was already over. She had no idea that I was already setting the wheels in motion to dismantle her entire life. She grinned. "See, I knew you'd understand." "Oh, sweetheart. You have no idea." That night, while she slept soundly beside me, I got to work. First, I cut off her access to my money. She never checked balances, just swiped her card and assumed it would go through. But now I removed her from every joint account, canceled her credit cards, moved assets into protected accounts, and I made sure none of it triggered alerts. Then I turned my attention to the car, the one she had so generously gifted Jake. It was in my name, which meant I had every right to take it back. A few phone calls later, a repossession company was on the case. By morning, Jake's shiny new ride was gone. I wasn't just planning to leave Olivia. I was making sure she got nothing. For days, I documented everything. Her spending habits, screenshots of her messages about the car, every piece of proof I needed for a rock-solid divorce case. Meanwhile, Olivia remained oblivious, still laughing, still carefree, still posting pictures with Jake. One caught my attention, a selfie of her and Jake, drinks in hand, captioned, "Nothing better than spoiling your bestie. #blessed #loyalty matters." I smiled, because soon she was about to learn what loyalty really meant. The morning of reckoning arrived. 6:45 a.m. Olivia, dressed in her designer yoga outfit, sunglasses perched on her head, strutted outside as usual. But when she reached the garage, she stopped short. Her car was gone. Not stolen. Not misplaced. Just missing. Seconds later, the door swung open, and she stormed in, her face pale with confusion and panic. Rob. I didn't move. Didn't even look up. Just took another sip of coffee and waited. Where the hell is my car? I finally looked at her, calm, collected. Repossessed. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then she laughed. A disbelieving, nervous laugh. You're kidding, right? This is some dumb joke. I shook my head. Nope. She scoffed, whipping out her phone. I already knew what she was doing. Checking her bank accounts. I watched as her face twisted. Watched the panic set in as she tapped frantically, flipping through balances. Then her eyes snapped to me, wide with pure, raw fear. Rob, what did you do? I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Oh, sweetheart, you'll make it back. Stop being cheap. I leaned back in my chair, watching her like she was a bug trapped under glass. The power had shifted, and I savored the moment. Then, in the most casual tone possible, I said the words that shattered the last of her illusions. I cut you off. She let out a short, breathy laugh, but this time there was no amusement in it. Only disbelief, bordering on hysteria. You can't **** king do this, Rob. We're married. I tilted my head, as if considering her words. Are we? Then, as if just remembering something, I reached into the drawer beside me, pulled out a thick manila envelope, and slid it across the counter. Here. You might want to read that. Her hands trembled as she snatched it up, eyes scanning the title page. And then, like a dam breaking, her entire expression crumbled. Her lips parted, but no sound came out at first, just a silent gasp of horror. No, she finally whispered, her voice weak. No. You're overreacting. We'll fix this. I took another slow sip of my coffee, letting the silence stretch between us. There's nothing to fix. She shook her head, more violently this time, panic setting in. Then, in a desperate move, she lunged forward and gripped my arm. Rob, listen to me. It's just a freaking car. It's not that serious. I yanked my arm free. You're right, I said evenly. It's not that serious. Then I leaned in, lowering my voice just enough to make her lean in too. That's why you can go ask Jake to pay your bills now. And just like that, the last of her confidence crumbled. She staggered back as if I had struck her, her face draining of color. Because we both knew the truth. Jake wasn't going to do a damn thing for her. The room filled with an eerie, tense silence before she scrambled for her phone, fingers fumbling over the screen. I didn't need to ask who she was calling. I already knew. Jake. The man she had stolen from me to help. The same guy she had been posting selfies with just last night, all smiles and self-satisfaction. She pressed the phone to her ear, pacing the room like a caged animal. 1 ring. 2 rings. 3. Then, the number you have dialed is no longer in service. I almost smirked. Jake had blocked her. She tried again. Same result. Then she tried texting him. I watched as her screen lit up with a message, not delivered notification. That's when she lost it. Her phone slipped from her hand, clattering onto the counter as she buried her fingers in her hair, breathing erratically. I just watched, because I knew exactly what was happening inside her head. Reality was crashing down around her. Her money gone. Her security gone. Her so-called best friend gone. And for the first time in her life, Olivia was completely, utterly alone. When she turned back to me, tears had welled in her eyes. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't smug. She was desperate. Rob, please, she whispered. Let's talk, okay? I tilted my head. Talk about what? Her voice cracked. Us. Fixing this. I swear I'll change. I didn't even hesitate. No, you won't. Her lips trembled as she exhaled shakily. Rob, I love you. I smiled. But it wasn't warmth or kindness she saw in my expression. It was something final. No, Olivia. You love my money. And with that, I grabbed my keys and walked out, leaving her to face the wreckage of her own making. Most people, after suffering a loss like that, would take their defeat and move on. But Olivia? She wasn't just entitled, she was delusional. And nothing proved that more than what she did next. Because after everything, after stealing from me, lying to my face, and getting cut off, she actually thought she could win in court. I was sitting in my lawyer's office, finalizing the last details of the divorce, when my phone buzzed with a message. You think you've won, but you'll regret this. See you in court. I actually laughed. She thought she was about to stage some grand comeback. She thought she still had a chance. In reality, she was about to be publicly, legally humiliated. The day of the hearing arrived, and I walked in feeling nothing but calm, while Olivia sat at her table, practically vibrating with anger. She looked like she had spent the last week screaming into a pillow. Her lawyer rose to his feet, all confidence, and launched into his argument. She had contributed to the marriage. She deserved financial support. I had sabotaged her financial stability by cutting her off. She had a right to my assets. I almost felt bad for the guy, because when my lawyer stood up, she shredded their case like tissue paper. We had a prenup. Olivia had never worked a day in our marriage. I had concrete evidence of her reckless spending. And the best part, I had proof, undeniable proof, that she had gifted another man with my money. The judge barely even looked at her before delivering the verdict. Mrs. Carter, your claim is denied. Just like that. Less than 10 minutes. Olivia sat frozen, her mouth slightly open in stunned disbelief. She turned to her lawyer, voice barely above a whisper. That's it. He shrugged, already packing up his briefcase. Because there was nothing left to argue. And me? I just stood up, buttoned my suit, and walked right past her. I didn't say a single word, because she wasn't worth another second of my time. The next time I heard about Olivia, she was living in a tiny apartment, barely scraping by. Her friends, who once flocked to her when she had access to my money, had abandoned her, because she was no longer useful to them. And the cherry on top? She had to get a job for the first time in years. A customer service rep. The same woman who once rolled her eyes at the idea of working was now spending her days answering phone calls and dealing with irate customers. Karma doesn't miss. Months passed, and then, one evening, my phone buzzed with a final message. I miss you, Rob. Can we just talk? I stared at the text for a moment. Then, without hesitation, I deleted it. Olivia was just another bad investment. And I never waste time on sunk costs.